Greetings, everybody. Chris Miller with the National Coalition for Community Capital here with one of my favorite people. And I know I say this a lot, but this really is one of my favorite people. Sarah Kaplan, who is with the best law firm ever, PathLightLaw,
You.
that has the folks that is doing so much important work for those of us who love community and are trying to make it a better place. Sarah, welcome to our conversation. It is lovely to see you.
Thank you so much, Chris. Likewise.
No, it's not lovely to see me. So you could say it's all right seeing you again. But in any
It's
event,
fun to be here.
okay, all right. So we wanted to pick your brain, get your expertise a little bit. As you know, we're primarily right now working on setting up community investment funds, and that's really exciting work. But obviously, funds are of no value if we don't have folks investing in them. And for us at NC3, our focus is really on non-accredited investors. I mean, we know that accredited investors have always had lots of opportunities to invest and lots of support in doing so. But for non-accredited investors, not so much. And for folks that are looking to invest in their own communities, whether that's a real estate project or a business or whatever, also not so much. So we know that a lot of people that we're working with, that ultimately our funds are not going to be successful unless we have community engagement in them. And for us, that community, or sometimes we refer to them as stakeholders, the people who are being impacted by the projects that are getting done when we're raising community capital, that is dollars from the community to go into these projects. So some words of wisdom and some things that those folks that maybe haven't made an investment before and are looking to make investment, what should they be thinking about? And I know this space is filled with rules and legislation that has made it unusual for non-accredited investors, if not difficult for non-accredited investors. And non-accredited investors is about 85 to 90% of us. It's purely a division based on wealth. Pretty much there's some educational pieces to it as well, but in some cases. But so most of us haven't done it. My family never did it. My grandparents never did it. So I had to learn a little bit about this largely on my own with colleagues, including my friends at Pathlight Law. So
You are giving me a ton of ideas, Chris. Thank you. So first, let me say that I am a securities lawyer and a co-op lawyer. So where I'm coming from is that I usually help the company that is trying to get people to invest. And what I normally do is help them comply with the law that they need to in order to be allowed to ask you, the public, to invest. And accredited investor, the most common way that that applies is that an accredited investor has $1 million in wealth excluding their home or a certain level of income. And then there are, if you have that level of wealth or that level of income, you're an accredited investor. There are, if you're a broker dealer, like the educational pieces are kind of like financial industry, if you've passed these financial industry exams, right? Like well-educated people might not be in the accredited investor category. And it has to do with your wealth. It doesn't, there's no accreditation. It's just a strange term for that. But so when you talk about what a community member would need to know and to get ready to invest, a lot of things come to mind, but the top thing would be like what I'm kind of calling corporations 101. Like I work with groups who are doing community-based projects, trying to get other people involved as a community and involved as investors and talking about shares and dividends and boards of directors. That is not part of our normal lives. It's not part of our, like we have professions that we're very skilled in, and it doesn't require us to know about corporate governance, right? So corporate governance things are not part of everyone's regular life. So I think it's really helpful for groups to do corporations 101 together. Um, and corporations 101 is kind of like understanding that corporations have classes of shares. And if you want to understand your rights as a shareholder, look at the description of the class of stock. But it is in legalese. I guess,
can I just ask you to
yeah,
stop for a second? You
yeah,
said class of stock. So what
yeah.
does that mean? So I
Well,
mean, I think everybody's heard of the stock market and we invest and we get some kind of a return on the investment. But when you're saying class of stock, what does that refer to?
they're referred to. So if you go out and fill out online articles of incorporation with your Secretary of State's website, it'll just have common stock. One type of stock, every share has one vote per share. And if that company wants to get more complicated about things, it can describe more than one type of stock in its articles of incorporation. It can have, there's always common stock. So I'm like kind of like giving, this is corporations 101 right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Common stock is voting stock. Common stock gets whatever's left. Preferred stock has some extra incentive, some advantage. Usually it gets paid out upon dissolution first. So if you put in $1 million and then that company is going downhill, that investor would want their $1 million back before the assets get distributed to other people, right? So that's the preference.
So to us commoners then.
Well, so if you're a commoner, which I am as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
well, so if you don't mind, I want to switch. There's corporations 101, which is understanding corporations.
Hmm.
Ideally, we lawyers could have a conversation with the group, the state, like the committee, and maybe other people to just talk about shares and what these things mean. Um, all right. So it's play money. What I'm getting at is it's play money. You should only invest play money. And putting on my hat as a person who just cares about people's well-being, I would really like, I only would invest after you have a nest egg that you're comfortable with. I wouldn't invest your very first. This is a whole conversation, right? Like some people are willing to invest all of their retirement in the better world that they want to see because they don't believe that retirement is possible based on Wall Street as it is today. And I tend to find myself in the camp of like, I want to have standard investments to a reasonable level before doing investments in one company that might do great or might go out of business. I have some friends who have a distillery, and we have made a loan to our local company, and they're doing great. They're growing. But I see a lot of clients with an aspirational plan that sounds great, and then they end up going out of business. So just like, yes, people should invest locally. People should support what they want to see in the world instead of something they don't want to see in the world. And just know that it's play money.
So by play money, you're not referring to actual play money like Monopoly, but you're saying money that we don't need for something else. So this should
That you can
be
afford to lose. Yeah.
that we can
So,
afford to lose. So that's a good way to look at it. I,
yeah.
I, I think the other thing um, that is important in this conversation, because again, when we're talking about folks who haven't invested, is we really are advocating for very modest investment levels, for community folks who haven't done it. So it's not unusual at all in these funds we're setting up. And I would also point out these funds are pooled investment vehicles, so not just investing in a single thing, although we encourage that as well, under the right circumstances where that makes sense. But there is inherently safety in a pooled investment vehicle that there isn't in a single investment. But in any event, I started to say we have investment. It's very normal for us to have investment levels at $100. So you'd make $100 investment. And part of the reason we have that low level is we want people to start off at a modest level of money that they could afford to not get back from.
Right. And that was part of the argument to legalize regulation crowdfund, Reg CF, in the first place, because people go and blow $100 on dinner or even just cocktails all the time. And so they should be able to put that into, someone's capitalizing a new project instead of
Mhm.
just.
Great. So we only have about 5 minutes left, and I want to make sure that like and that's probably the most important thing that you set up by saying, but think about this as money that you can afford. But what else should we be thinking about? And again, maybe on the due diligence side, the kinds of things that when an offer is out there to invest, whether that's into a single project or a pooled investment vehicle, what should people who are making that decision look at?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would really like understanding that your time is valuable. If you could just as easily spend $100 on, clothing or cocktails or something like that, um, if it's someone or someone who you're familiar with their project for some reason, for $100 investment, I would not do a lot of due diligence because it's your time. But if it's a bigger chunk of money, the quick thing I can say is just try to read the documents. The thing for people to understand about securities law is that securities law, predominantly what it does is require disclosure of information.
Mhm.
Um, in general, there is a federal and state framework of laws that regulate seeking investment from people. And the
Mhm.
general rule is that you cannot offer and sell invest or securities unless they're registered or exempt. And so the general rule is you can't just go out to the public and solicit investments. But there are several ways of going out to the public, seeking capital from the public legally that is within an exemption. So if they're on a portal that is a regulation crowdfund portal, that is a legal thing to do. If they're a cooperative or if they have some, if there's a state crowdfunding law, there are ways of seeking, like just because someone's seeking investment from the public, does not mean it's illegal. It might very well be legal if they are complying with an exemption for co-ops, or if they're on a portal, or if your state has a crowdfunding law. And then just try to read the documents that they have to share. Like that's what securities law is doing for you. They have to share their what is their legal entity? What are they selling you? Um, do you believe that they will make money with your money? I mean that's a pretty general overview, but it's kind of a guessing game. Like, are they going to succeed?
I really like that you're pointing out that this doesn't happen willy-nilly exactly, right? That we don't see people just out there, and that if it's
Yeah,
a formal offer, there are rules that they have to find, there are disclosures, things they have to tell about, and you as an investor have an opportunity to read about those before you make those investors, and then you make a decision about whether this is true or not.
right,
The other thing I'd say too, so one of the things we're seeing, and certainly one of the things that's required in our funds, is that we're doing real estate investment, and that's a little bit different because we're not looking at whether a business is going to make it or not make it. It's going to succeed or it's going to fail. Now we're looking at real estate, but same thing. There's going to be disclosures there, right? And so people can look at that and drive by the real estate and that sort of thing. And if it's a development, then you can look at who's going to be doing developing, so that sort of thing. Great.
right. Yes.
Super. Okay.
Read it. Read the disclosures.
Yeah, read the disclosures.
Yep.
Okay. What's your parting advice to a non-accredited investor who's never invested before and their community has set up a locally based and controlled community investment fund and they've got a real estate project up as the first project? What's your advice to them?
Great, great. Well, having real estate in the fund is a great backstop, so I'm less worried about losing the money, but I really think it is all about getting the overall sense about whether the project is being handled competently and responsibly and whether the skills are there in the team. And you can tell that by reading the documents that they have prepared, whether they seem well done, and by getting to know them a bit. And right, so I'm usually on the other side. Uh, I'm counseling the people who are getting these things prepared.
Yeah.
Um, but if I were on the flip side, looking at it from the investor's point of view, um, I mean, what you can do is make sure don't spend money, don't invest money that you can't afford to lose because it is
Yeah.
risky. And then just your overall sense of like, we cannot predict the future, but are these people that you can trust to manage it? And does it seem like they're doing a good job with their disclosures? Because that's the first thing they need to do. And then if they do a good job there, maybe they'll do a good job with managing the fund.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, that's really helpful, and I appreciate that. Because we want to make sure that these funds succeed, and that means not just that we get all the legal stuff and the structural things that you help with on the offer side, but that our investors also, we have a goal that these funds are going to build wealth in the communities we're building them. So we're counting on the funds being successful, good projects being invested in good
Yeah.
real estate, good businesses, et cetera. So Sarah, thank you so much for spending some time with us. If people want to get a hold of you because they're intrigued by your scarf or your legal knowledge, whatever it might be,
It's a
what's the best way
cooperative.
to get in touch with you?
The easiest thing to say is just go to pathlightlaw.com and we do have a contact page. We do offer free initial consultations. You can find us at pathlightlaw.com. It's okay to call my number, but it's easier to just remember the
Terrific.
website. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That sounds great. Well, thanks very much for being with us,
Thank
Sarah.
you, Chris.
Until next time, it's our Coalition Conversations.
Spending it away.
Yeah.
Yeah.